Hey, Valley Mills students, welcome to our online student ministry. I'm so glad that you've decided to join us. Please feel free to comment, like, or share this video. We're doing things a little differently right now, but I'm going to do a little lesson. We are not going to have a Zoom small group this week, but we'll have one next Sunday. So please just watch this, comment on it. If you have any questions, just contact me or comment, and I'll answer them. One of my favorite movies when I was a kid was The Lion King. And recently they remade The Lion King. I'm sure a lot of you have watched it. And even last night I read the story of Lion King to my baby boy Peter. The Lion King, the story goes with, Simba is born, and Simba's going to be the next heir to the throne, basically, when Mufasa dies. So Simba's going to be the new king. And what happens is Simba is a really curious little lion cub, and Simba, wants to go places he's not supposed to. He wants to do things he's not supposed to, and his Uncle Scar sees this, and Uncle Scar is kind of jealous because Simba is going to be next in line, and he thinks he should be next in line, and he doesn't like how his brother runs their pack, basically. So, Scar takes it upon himself to get Simba out of there and to get Mufasa out of there as well. So Simba, he is shown everything by his father. He's shown the whole kingdom, and he says, "Well, what about the dark places? Why? What's over there?" And he said, "You should never go over there." But Scar decides he's going to tell him that he should go over there, in that his dad's just trying to make him miss out on something. So he ends up going over there, and Scar traps Simba and has his hyenas send wildebeest in a stampede, and Simba's afraid and scared, and he's could possibly die. So Mufasa runs over there, saves Simba, but in this, Scar pushes Mufasa down a hill and doesn't help him, and he goes down into the wildebeest and he gets trampled on. And Simba has no idea how this has happened. He thinks it's his own fault, and Scar even tells him it's his own fault. That Simba, it's your fault. No one will like you now. No one would respect you as a leader. You need to run away, go away. This is all your fault, kind of thing. And with that, he leaves. And during that, Scar takes over, and the land's just desolate because they just eat everything. They're like the hyenas. They just leave everything, and they take and take and take, and there's nothing left, and the Pride Lands look terrible. And Simba thinks at all this time everyone's mad at him. Everyone thinks that he killed his father and that it's all his fault, and everyone wouldn't accept him, and no one would love him. So he leaves until he comes in contact with Timon and Pumbaa. And he hangs out with them, and he's living the no worries life, Hakuna Matata. And then Nala comes back and says, "You need to come back. You need to come back and lead us. Scar is doing all this stuff." And you see, Simba was told all these lies, that everyone was blaming him, everybody would hate him, no one would respect him, that his own father's death was his fault. But that wasn't the case. They needed him, and they needed a leader, and they needed him to quit making excuses, quit living a life of no worries, and start living a life that has purpose, and a life that is taking charge. And we find Peter in this similar situation. At the Last Supper, Peter sits around the table with the 12 disciples and with Jesus. And Jesus sits there eating, knowing that he's about to be betrayed, and knowing that one of his closest friends is going to do it. This is what Jesus starts to talk about. Look at Matthew 26. He says, "Then Jesus told them, 'This very night you will all fall away on account of me. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I have risen, I will go ahead of you into Galilee.' Peter replied, 'Even if all fall away on account of you, I never will.'" You see, Peter is so quick and to respond and kind of slow to think. I heard this the other day. Peter's like a fullback, half heart and half mind. Fullbacks just run in their full blast and lay blocks and knock people out, and just, they don't really think as much as they should, and they're just kind of, the meat of the backfield, right? It takes a hard-headed person who's not afraid of pain and not afraid to just jump in and go right into action. And that's what Peter is. Peter is this guy who's just impulsive and he'll jump in and just say things without thinking about it and just run and go with it. And that's Peter. He doesn't think about things before he does them. He's impulsive, and sometimes he's a mess at times. But Jesus is going to do something great through Peter. Here Jesus, the Son of God, King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, part of the Trinity, who was at the beginning and will forever be, says this: "This very night you will all fall away on account of me." But Peter goes, who knows that, Jesus is the Son of God and Jesus knows all. He knows all that, but yet he's like, "Oh, I won't do that. I'm not like that, Jesus. I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I would never do that." Really, Peter? Really, you're saying that to Jesus? Jesus knows what is going to happen. He always has known. Peter should know better, right? But instead he puts his foot in his mouth and says, "Oh, I would never do that." Jesus continues on. "Truly I tell you," Jesus answered, "this very night before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. But Peter declared, "Even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you." And all the other disciples said the same. I love it. He's like, "Well, actually, Peter, you're not only going to scatter because of me, you're going to disown me 3 times before the rooster crows." 3 times. He's saying that, well, you think you won't even walk away because of me, but you're going to disown me. Like, I'm taking it up a notch. Peter likes to talk a big game, but ultimately, he will do just as Jesus says. Skip down to verse 69. It says, "Now Peter was sitting out in the courtyard, and a servant girl came to him. 'You also were with Jesus of Galilee,' she said. But he denied it before them all. 'I don't know what you're talking about,' he said. Then he went out to the gateway, where another servant girl saw him and said to the people, 'There, this fellow was with Jesus of Nazareth.' He denied it again with an oath, 'I don't know the man.' After a little while, those standing there went up to Peter and said, 'Surely you are one of them. Your accent gives you away.' Then he began to call down curses, and he swore to them, 'I don't know the man.' Immediately the rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered the word of Jesus had spoken, 'Before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times.' And he went outside and wept bitterly." You see, he falls right into the trap that he was worried about the whole time. He knew he was going to do it. He knew Jesus had told him. Jesus literally said, "You're going to do this exact thing." He was warned about it, but yet he still did it. And this is Peter, the one who's supposed to be the rock, the one who's supposed to be the leader, one of them that was closest to Jesus. He is supposed to help be the foundation of the church for Jesus. But yet Peter sits there in denial. And it overcomes him. But Jesus is shaping him and molding him into who he wants him to be. Here's my question. It's so easy to pick on Peter and to show his flaws, but isn't that us? Don't we deny Jesus all the time? Think about all the times that you have decided to blatantly sin, even though you believe in God, even though you knew it was wrong. Aren't you denying him every time you just decide to do whatever you want? You decide that, Jesus says this is a sin, but I'm going to do what I want. How many times have you said, "How can there be a God if this is happening?" You fill in the blank. If this is happening, the hurt, the pain, death, parents leaving us, friends stabbing us in the back. How many times have you denied God and said, "If you really exist, how could this happen?" How many times have you doubted that he truly exists? You see, you question creation of the world. You question if God hears your prayers, and you deny, and you deny. Some of us, it seems like this is every day. And some of us, maybe it's not so often, but you still do it. So before you start pointing the finger at Peter, think about what you do. How can you change? How is God using your denial to shape who you should be in the future? Listen to this. You cannot have a strong faith unless you question it first. Now that sounds kind of weird, but think about it. You don't just start believing in God and believing in Him blindly. Like, that's a pretty shallow faith. You see, you learn from your experiences, from what you have learned, then and from what you have felt, from what you have been told, from what you've read, um, from looking at others' faiths and deciding what's true and what is right. You see, through the testing of our faith and through doubt and through questioning things and looking it up and learning more and more, our faith grows, and it grows firmer, and it grows stronger, and it grows more entrenched down to where our roots are stronger when we doubt and when we question things. You see, doubt is great if you work towards not having that doubt anymore. If you work towards learning what it means when you question, it's okay, but it's not okay just to leave it as a question. It's not okay to just leave it as a doubt. You need to work towards solving that and resolving that and asking questions of people and reading your Bible and hearing people speak about the topics you're concerned about and researching and looking at commentaries and just knowing things that make your faith so much stronger. Because if you just start questioning and you don't look for answers, that doesn't build your faith. Don't have this blind faith that you're just like, yeah, whatever, Jesus is real, blah, blah, blah. You know, you need to actually know what's in the Bible. You need to know what you believe, and you need to be firm in that. Because when something comes, when trials come, when tests come, you're going to fall away like that. You remember the story about the wise man who built his house on the rock. Make your foundation of your faith on the rock. Don't put it on the sand where storms are going to blow it away, where rain's going to come down and wash it out. Build it strongly. Your faith gets molded when you question and when you deny. It can only be molded correctly if you keep trying. When you deny, when you mess up, God's not done with you. You have to look for answers and look for what God is trying to do in your life. Look at the next time Peter sees Jesus, how his denial is going to create something stronger. And God is not done with Peter, but he's just getting started. That's the awesome thing about Christ, is that he's not done with you. He's just getting started with you. But you have to press on and you have to continue to work at it. Look at John 21, 1-3. After these things, Jesus showed himself again to the disciples by the Sea of Tiberias. And he showed himself in this way. Gathered there together were Simon Peter, Thomas called the twin, Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and 2 others of his disciples. Simon Peter said to them, I am going fishing. They said to him, we will go with you. They went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. So we find Peter doing what? Fishing. If you remember, before Jesus called Peter, Peter was a fisherman. He would have his own boat. He would be fishing. He would be casting his nets out, and that was his job before he left everything and followed Christ. You see, Peter felt shame, and he felt like he didn't belong because of his denial. You know, Jesus was gone, or so they thought, and he felt like he had nowhere to turn to other than fishing. For fish, not for men. This is what we tend to do when we mess up. We run back, like Simba. You remember in the story that I talked about Lion King, Simba thought people would reject him. He thought people would talk about him. He thought that they wouldn't respect him as a leader, so he ran. And that's what Scar told him to do. He ran. He thought people were done with him. He thought he had nothing left. And that's where Peter's at. He thought he has nothing left, so he just returned to the only thing he knew, and that was fishing. You see, we think when we've been caught, we need to just get out of there. We need to hide. We need to run. And we can't do anything because we think everyone will disrespect us. And we think that no one will care about us. And we think that God's just done with us. But that's not true. Peter knew his words mattered. And he thought there was no way the disciples would look to him as their leader if they knew that he was a denier. One who was so strong, showing weakness. So he runs away. And we're so much like that. We're so much like Peter. When we make mistakes, we always run. We don't want to face reality. We don't want to say that, we did this and we admit to it. But Jesus doesn't let us run away from our mistakes. Jesus will always chase you down. You see, we serve a God who will leave the 99 sheep to find the one that's wandered off. We serve a God who cares about you so much that no matter what, he's going to chase you down and find you and bring you back. Jesus is that. He wants us. He seeks us out, and he shows us this with Peter. You see, look at John 21, verse 4 through 8. Just after daybreak, Jesus stood on the beach, but the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to them, "Children, you have no fish, have you?" They answered him, "No." He said to them, "Cast the net to the right side of the boat, and you will find some." So they cast it, and they were not able to haul it in because of all the fish. That disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." When Simon Peter heard it was the Lord, he put on some clothes, for he was naked, and jumped into the sea. But the other disciples came in the boat, dragging the net full of fish, for they were not far from land, only about 100 yards off. I love this story. First off, this shows that Jesus meets you wherever you are. Jesus is going to chase you down. Jesus is going to find you and pull you out of that deep pit. But I really love how he is like, "Oh, have you tried casting the nets on the other side?" Like, really, Jesus? Really? Like, I would be so annoyed. I mean, if you've gone fishing, like, just casting the other side of the boat is not really the solution if you've caught nothing all night. They're up all night. They're cranky. But they're like, "Okay, we'll cast it to the other side." So they did that. And they brought in so much fish. And it worked. And the people were ecstatic. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is Jesus. It's the Lord." And the disciple whom he loves said it. And Peter, what does he immediately do? He jumps out of the boat and swims to shore. This is our impulsive Peter, the Peter who does things without thinking. He jumps in the water before he's like, "Oh yeah, we're 100 yards from shore." Like, it's not even that far. But he does it. And it reminds me of the movie Forrest Gump, when Forrest Gump sees Lieutenant Dan and he's in the shrimping boat, and he's like, "Lieutenant Dan," and jumps right into the water and swims and lets the boat crash into the dock. That's what I imagine when I think about this. But Peter's so impulsive that he just jumps in the water because he's so excited that it's the Lord, that it's Jesus. John 21:9 says, "When they had gone ashore, they saw a charcoal fire there with fish on it and bread." He sees a charcoal fire. Now, if you were paying attention earlier, you would know that Jesus is trying to trigger a memory in Peter's mind. Because the only two times charcoal fire comes up is in these two stories. The story of when Peter denies, and the story of when Peter is confronted about his denial. So Jesus is trying to say, "I'm not ignoring this, Peter. I know what you did. We're going to talk about it." You see, this is Jesus chasing him down. He's like, "I'm not letting this go." Jesus doesn't let things just be ignored and just leaves us alone, but uses them to mold us into and to pursue the kingdom and to build the kingdom, because he wants you to be the best you can be. And to be the best you can be, you cannot just leave things ignored. To be the best Christian you can be, you can't just ignore your sin. You can't just ignore this denial. You need to work on it. So look at John 21:15 through 17. It says, "When they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, 'Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?' He said to him, 'Yes, Lord, you know that I love you.' Jesus said to him, 'Feed my lambs.' A second time he said to him, 'Simon, son of John, do you love me?' He said to him, 'Yes, Lord, you know that I love you.' Jesus said to him, 'Tend my sheep.' He said to him a third time, 'Simon, son of John, do you love me?' Peter felt hurt, because he said to him a third time, 'Do you love me?' And he said to him, 'Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you.' Jesus said to him, 'Feed my sheep.'" Jesus says this 3 times. "Do you love me?" Coincidence? I think not. He is saying, and he's proving a point, and he's saying, "Peter, you know what I'm talking about. You deny me 3 times. And I'm asking you 3 times, do you love me more than these?" And the more than these, some people think he's pointing to fish. We don't really know. But I think what he's saying is, I left and you went back to fishing for fish. But I called you to be a fisher of men. Don't you love me more than these fish? Don't you love me more than your old job? He says, feed my sheep. Jesus is saying that I have a purpose for you. I know you messed up, but that doesn't mean you should stop. That doesn't mean that I'm done with you. That doesn't mean that you can just run away from that, because you have a purpose and you have a goal in your life. And that goal in your life is to build the church, train up the church, to spread the gospel, to write books, to teach people about who I am, about the resurrection from the dead, that I am life. You see, for some of us, we've been in denial. Maybe you've messed up. Maybe you've doubted. Maybe you ran far, far away from God. And you need to hear these words from Jesus. These words that say, I forgive you. I know what you did, and I forgive you. I know what you did, and I want you to get up and do something about it. I want you to get up and take on the world. I want you to get up and know that I still have a purpose for you and that I can still use you. You see, Jesus uses people who are messed up. Jesus uses people who have denied him. Jesus uses people to do his purpose and to do his will. God is not done with you. He's never done with you. You see, Peter thought nothing could happen because of what he did. He thought it was so great that he could not continue on. He couldn't be the leader. He couldn't be the person that Jesus wanted him to be, but he could. Jesus saw that in him, because Jesus sees in us what we can't see in ourselves. Because Jesus has a plan for you, and God is not done with you. Just like Peter, maybe you've denied him, maybe you've ran away from him, but it's time to come back. This week, if this is what you're dealing with, I want you to know that almost 2,000 years ago, Jesus died for you. He paid that price. He paid your sin. He paved a way for you, and he made the ultimate statement that says, I'm not done with you. That is why he died. If Jesus was done with you, he would have never come down from heaven, lived on this earth, felt pain, been beaten, been nailed to that cross, and died if he was done with you. Because there would be no purpose for it. So this week, I want you to know that no matter what you've done, Jesus is sitting there waiting for you to repent and say, I'm sorry. Say, I love you, Lord. I'm putting my faith in you. And say, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to be fishers of men. I'm going to spread your gospel. I'm going to speak about that. And I'm going to tell people all about who you are. So this week, I want you to know that we are here to help you. If you need us to pray for anything, if you needed to talk to us, if this really hit home with you and you just need to talk about something, if you feel like you want to get baptized, if you feel like you want to put your faith in Jesus Christ, if you want to change your life around, or you want to rededicate your life to Christ, I just want you to talk to us. I want you to know that God's not done with you. I don't know what's gone on in your life. I mean, we just met like a week ago, but I want you to know that no matter where you're at, God's going to meet you where you're at. God is going to change your life. God is going to flip your world upside down, because he loves you. He wants what's best for you, and he wants to change your life. Jesus doesn't ignore you. Jesus doesn't walk away from you. So make that decision. I want you to know that this week we are not doing a Zoom small group. But if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you want to post a comment out there, whatever it may be, talk to us. We're here to help. We can talk about this a little more at the next Zoom meeting. That will be April 19th. And I just want you to have a great week. I want you to plug into an Easter service this week. We will have one at 10 a.m. on our Facebook page. I hope you can join. I hope you can invite your friends and tell them the good news about the kingdom of God, about Jesus and what Easter's all about. I hope this is an incredible Easter for you, and I want you to continue to know that God's not done with you. God loves you. Jesus came to die for you, and I hope to see you next week. I'll talk to you later.